Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about Encyclia tampensis. So it is a pretty warm early June day here in Southwest Florida. It is once again 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 32 degrees Celsius. There's a nice wind blowing. Humidity isn't really high, but it's high enough. So it is a cooker. What I have around me is some of my Encyclia tampensis. I grow a lot of these because what happened is I was charged with growing plants and reintroducing those plants into a local park. But what happened is the hurricane came along, wiped out the park, knocked down a lot of the trees, and I was stuck with all of these Encyclia tampensis that I grew from seed. I've been able to get rid of quite a few of them, but I've retained some. I have a ton more coming. I think yesterday I might have made about another 15 flasks. Each one of those flasks has 25 plants in it. And that's just part of what I have. And those flasks all came from a capsule, I think from this plant right here. So I've got a lot of plants coming. These are, they're nice plants. I don't prefer them, but a lot of people do because they're native. And because they're natives, they do really well in this area. What I wanted to do, though, is share with you some of my plants and how they're growing under the different conditions that I have them growing under. So I have there in a variety of different media conditions, everything. They can handle close to full sun, but not full sun. They do prefer a little bit of shade. In nature, of course, as you might imagine, they are growing. They're epiphytic and they're always growing on trees. I did a video about, well, I guess a year ago, because they were blooming locally, and I found the wild tampensis plants that are growing in my local city, and they're all over the place. They like growing in mahogany trees, but there's one growing in a pine tree, a native pine tree down the street. There's one behind me that's a rescue from a pine tree that was that a neighbor called me up because they were taking the pine tree down. So I did a tampensis rescue, and that plant's doing well and it's flowering right now behind me. So these guys do really well. But what I want to do is show you some of the tampensis that I have and what conditions they were growing under to give you kind of a gauge of the conclusions that I'd make on what these things, how these things like to grow. So I've got a lot of these just because in nature they're mounted on boards. So I've got a lot of these that are, as you can see here, maybe not really well, but these are board mounted, and these are mounted on cedar. They're in hooks. I just have them on my fence or underneath my pergola over there, and they're all doing well, and they're all flowering. So these are doing okay. Here's another, I don't know if it's off the screen or you can see it. Here's another tampensis that again is mounted on a board, and it seems to be doing pretty well. I should mention that these plants, I think, are about 4 years old from seed. I grew these from seed myself. I flasked these and grew them from seed. So they're doing pretty well under those conditions. I did have a colleague contact me and said that he had a tampensis, one of his seedlings that he got from me, that was blooming within 2 years from seed, and that's pretty remarkable. Normally it takes a little while to do that, and these were still in the 2.5-inch pots that I provided to him. He's actually fostering. He's a foster parent for a lot of my orchids because I don't have space for them in my own nursery area. He's a real considerate foster parent. He takes care of them really well. And he got a very early flower on that tampensis. So most of these, like I said, are on these cedar boards. I do have, here's one just for fun, that I mounted yikes, and this is a coconut husk right here. So I just cut this thing in half and mounted the tampensis right in the middle of the coconut, and you can tell it's not doing as well. And these are all siblings right here, so it's not doing as well as this one. And you can tell you could tell when it was growing that it wasn't doing that well. But it's, you know, it's flowering and it's doing okay. It's got a lot of nice leaves, and it's fine. The other thing as a comparison is I wanted to share with you this plant, and this is a plant that is in a pot. These guys seem to do a little, and this is the same age as this plant, so these guys seem to do a little bit better in pots. This has, I don't know, it's maybe double the size of the plants that are on boards here, grown under the same conditions. They're all in the pergola. But what happens in a pot, and this is, I think in here, there is, it's a mixture of, looks like lava stone and bark that's in here. And this is what I used early on. Now I use a combination of lava stone and leca. But it's doing well. It's got a number of new growths coming out of it, and it's loaded with flowers. It's not quite peak flower yet, but that's okay. It's still looking pretty good. But again, I think it likes being under my conditions. It likes being in a pot a little bit more. What the advantage of being in the pot is when this is watered, there is a little residual moisture that's in the water and fertilized everything. There's a little residual that stays in the pot, so it's a little bit longer watering time and a little bit longer nutrition that this one in the pot has. The other pot plant that I want to share with you is right here, and again, you can tell how big this plant is, or maybe you can't. It's hard to get it down here, but this is a pretty big plant. And what's going on here is, again, this is in a 4-inch square pot right here, and this is in looks like a 4 or maybe a 5-inch round pot right here. So this plant is pretty big. This, I think, has about 30 spikes on it. It's growing, I don't know if you can tell, it's growing. This one looks like it's contained in the 4-inch pot. This one, the roots are growing outside, and the pseudobulbs are also growing outside of the pot. This is a big plant, and I don't know whether I mentioned, so there are 30, I counted them. I counted, and there may even be more because I see there's some younger ones, but there's 30 spikes coming out of this plant, and it's blowing over the edge of the pot. And I think, again, part of this isn't in the pergola. This one's home is actually right here. And so I think, again, being in the pot, I think if the conditions are good, being in the pot, you're going to get a little bit better growth than mounting. But if you're concerned about rotting, survival, it's I think putting on the board is fine. And again, survival is fine. The coconut, it worked well. A couple other things, let me just show you. These are some younger plants that I have here that are not even close to flowering. But this one and this one right here. So this is a piece of, that's right side up. This is a piece of driftwood, and this thing is doing well on the driftwood, and it's growing. This is from my second batch of seedlings, so this is maybe it's close to 2 years old, a little less than 2 years old. And this is again from that same batch, and this is on a very small, thin piece of cedar. And it doesn't look like there's anything here, but the roots have attached to the cedar, and it's doing okay. So and again, this is the latest batch. With the latest batch, I've given most of those away already. I have very few left, and the majority of the plants that I do have left from the second batch is going to go to the person that supplied the seed to me. I've given her a number of rounds, but this is the last round, and these plants they look really good. So she's going to get all of those, and then I'm out. But the third round that's coming up, and that's what I said. I did 15 flasks yesterday on that, and those plants they're coming along really well. And again, that's progeny plants from I think this one right here. So this, I just wanted to give you kind of a general idea of the tampensis that I'm growing in my collection, how they look. I've gotten rid of most of my extra plants again because I'm growing these and they're backed up because I couldn't get them out in the park. I'm hoping that I get permission soon to replant in the park, and then the third round of plants that I have from seeds are going to go in the park. And again, I've got a lot of those. They're coming really well. People really love these because they're natives and they do well under these conditions. I should also say that the flowers are, I mean they're small, they're nice, they're fragrant, which is a really nice thing to have. And the more flowers that you have, like right here, the more fragrance that you'll get from it. It has been just, this is when they bloom, by the way, is late May and early June. Occasionally, what happens, like with the plant behind me, occasionally they'll bloom off cycle, but for the most part, this is when they bloom. Pollination on these it's very common to find seed capsules on these plants in the wild. That's where really all of these came from, and they're insect pollinated. They're not wind pollinated, as you might imagine. I've made crosses on these things as well, and what I need to do in order to mix things up a little bit is try to find more natives and bring in different genetic populations and cross those just to maintain the genetic diversity that is needed for these native plants. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my video and my flowers of Encyclia tampensis. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.